The House MAGA Republicans and Jim Jordan in the Judiciary Committee are working overtime to try to help out Donald Trump to get his chosen Attorney General, Todd Blanche, confirmed in the Senate.
Any roving grand juror who...
Exhibit A, the new referral that Jim Jordan has made to Todd Blanche to give him a talking point to go after Jack Smith, who lives inside of Donald Trump's brain, the former special prosecutor who investigated Donald Trump successfully for criminal interference with the election, obstruction, and espionage. What is the basis for the referral by Jim Jordan and his committee led by MAGA? To Todd Blanche to investigate the sworn enemy of Donald Trump that he litigated against when he was Donald Trump's private criminal lawyer? Oh, yeah.
For homicide detectives, their chance of solving a murder is cut in half if they don't get a lead within the first 48 hours.
Now it's time for the jail to go after the jailers. What is it? Oh, that when answering a question about what members of the House's cell phone records were obtained by subpoena, he truthfully answered, Jack Smith did, that he did not recall that any text messages were reviewed, rather toll records, which is date of phone call, duration of phone call, who was what phone number was phoned, toll records, like your old billing records, they were obtained. Well, subsequently, the Department of Justice released some files that shows that as part of the investigation, Jack Smith's team also separately, not by subpoena, obtained text messages that were presidential records that were stored with the National Archive as part of their investigation.
I have learned already in this office that the difficult decisions always come to this desk. I must admit that many of them do not look at all the same as the hypothetical questions that I have answered freely and perhaps too fast on previous occasions. My customary policy is to try and get all the facts and to consider the opinions of my countrymen and to take counsel with my most valued friends. But these seldom agree, and in the end, the decision is mine.
That's the answer to a different question. The question that should have been asked if you were trying to get somebody on perjury or lying to Congress, Mr. Jordan, I know you never practiced law, but let me just tell you, the question should have been, in addition to the subpoenas in which you got the toll records, did you have access to any other text messages by members of Congress and Republican ones? To which I presume Jack Smith would have said, if he remembered, yes, we got some from the National Archive. But you can't prosecute him in good faith under the guidelines, the Department of Justice guidelines, for answering the question, did you subpoena phone records of congressmen? And Jack Smith saying, we subpoenaed toll records. That is an accurate answer, and it's not misleading just because you didn't ask the other question about text messages in the National Archive. Oh, let's break it all down, folks, here on Legal AF to kick off our Thursday morning of programming. So Jack Smith testified before the House Judiciary Committee. He wanted to do it in public. Instead, they made him do it behind closed doors. They did record it. We have the video. We have the transcript. We know what he said. Throughout the letter, which I will put up in Legal AF Substack for you, this is the sole basis for the referral. That during the deposition on December 17th, the committee advised Mr. Smith that he was obliged to provide truthful answers, okay? The committee questioned Mr. Smith about toll records toll records. That's your bill. That's your, not content of the conversation records. And about toll record subpoenas related to the private records of members of Congress. The committee sought to understand in particular whether Mr. Smith or members of his team ever received or reviewed the content of members' communications. All right, stop right there. That's not what you asked. If you wanted to ask that, your question would have been, did you ever receive or review the content of members' communications in addition to the toll record subpoenas? But that's not what he was asked. What he was asked was the following question. Did you seek a search warrant for the content of any text messages from members? Answer, from members? Question, yes. Answer, no, I don't recall that. Question, okay, it was just toll records. Answer, correct. Question, did the toll records that you requested include content of the phone calls? No. Did the records that you requested, the toll records, include the content of text messages? No. That is all perfectly true. Here's a clip of Jack Smith.
Congress has allowed toll records to be subpoenaed. This committee has actually tried to limit it over the years, and the senators who are whining the most over on the Republican side in the Senate, they never went along with our determination to try to limit the government's ability to subpoena toll records. So it's perfectly lawful what you did. Explain, why did you want those toll records?
We wanted to conduct a thorough investigation of the matters that was assigned to me, including attempts to interfere with the lawful transfer of power. The conspiracy that we were investigating, it was relevant to get toll records to understand the scope of that conspiracy, who they were seeking to coerce, who they were seeking to influence, who was seeking to help them.
And that's normal investigative practice, right?
In conducting a criminal investigation, securing non-content toll records, as you described, is a common practice in almost any complex conspiracy.
Okay.
As a commentator and practicing lawyer, discovery is everything. But there's a form of discovery happening to you every day that you never consented to. Right now, your personal records, home address, phone number, and even relatives' names are being discovered, packaged, and sold by an unregulated industry of data brokers. This isn't just about privacy, it's about security. This data is the primary fuel for the identity theft and sophisticated scams we see dominating the headlines. That's why I've partnered with Incogni. Think of Incogni as your personal privacy advocate. Instead of you spending dozens of hours navigating the labyrinth opt-out processes that these brokers intentionally make difficult, Incogni handles the legal work of demanding your information be removed. They initiate the request and follow up to ensure those brokers actually comply with the law. What really sets them apart is their unlimited plan, which features custom removals. This is for those hard to scrub sites that fall outside the standard lists, like old news portals, random blogs, or sketchy directories. If you find your info somewhere it shouldn't be, you simply send Incogni the link. Their team of privacy experts then handles the manual takedown for you, start to finish. Look, I've used this service myself, and the continuous monitoring in the background is the only way to ensure that once your data is gone, it stays gone. Take control of your personal data risk-free for 30 days. Go to incogni.com/truth and use code TRUTH to get 60% off an annual plan. It's time to take your data off the market before it's used against you with code TRUTH at incogni.com/truth to reclaim your privacy today. Now, separately, it appears, based on some revelations or some new disclosures by the Department of Justice in cherry-picking their responses, that the text messages of 44 members of Congress communicating with the White House were part of the National Archives storage of presidential communications. See, you're supposed to turn over all of your communications as president because they're the people's papers. They're the people's records. And apparently he did. He didn't take them all with him to Mar-a-Lago. And in searching through the National Archive, they found apparently 44 members of Congress's text messages, which they reviewed. Let's put up on the screen some of the disclosures by Chairman Grassley, the senator. So there's a back and forth back in August 21 of 2023 between prosecutors about the National Archive folder. And so here you'll see at 1:06 p.m., RRK is having a dialogue with another person on the special counsel's group and the FBI about a folder labeled White House text messages. And they say that that is a folder that has 54 Excel files with text messages from White House phones. That's an August 21 text messages. Okay. Well, then maybe somebody should have asked the proper question. The answer to the question is no. The toll records we subpoenaed did not have text message content. Done. If you wanted to ask the follow-up, you ask the follow-up. He doesn't have to answer questions you didn't answer. You know? Oh, let's go. See, the problem is when they went back to the transcript to try to find perjury or lying to Congress, I'm sure they sent their staffers, oh, there were text messages in the presidential records in the National Archive. What did he say about that? And somebody had to tell Jordan, nothing, because you didn't ask that question. Oh, well, act like we were going to ask the question, and Jack Smith should have properly responded to it. Now, here's what his lawyers have already at Covington and Burling. Here's the lawyers for Jack Smith. Here's how they've responded to this letter. They just sent it last night. The House Judiciary Committee's referral to the Department of Justice of our client is based on spurious claims that Mr. Smith provided false testimony. The referral is made not because Mr. Smith made a false statement. The letter concedes he did not, but because he did not proactively disclose information that was not responsive to a question that was asked. He candidly discussed his work as special counsel. The purported predicate for this referral is based on that exchange, which we just read. Perhaps in recognition, it says notably on page 2, the referral letter does not contest the truthfulness of Mr. Smith's answers. He was right about the toll records. The referral letter instead relies on the unprecedented theory that Mr. Smith provided false testimony, not because of what he said, but because of what he did not say. Specifically, the referral argues that he did not proactively disclose that the special counsel's office also collected from the National Archive records from the White House phones that included text messages between White House officials and Republican and Democratic members of Congress, both, not just Republicans. The letter advances a theory even that the information was not responsive to any question asked. This dangerous theory of criminal liability has no limiting principle and risks ensnaring every witness who testifies before a congressional committee who does not proactively disclose information that is not responsive to a question, i.e., every witness. Moreover, and they go on about why the speech and debate clause doesn't apply. Todd Blanche needs to recuse himself from this referral. I know the letter was addressed to him, but Todd Blanche was the criminal defense lawyer for Donald Trump against Jack Smith. How can he sit in judgment and properly exercise prosecutorial discretion under the Department of Justice manual and the principles of federal prosecution, given his conflict? It's not just an appearance of impropriety, it's outright impropriety. Now, we know that Jack Smith, coming out in the last couple of weeks to defend the rule of law, has gotten under Donald Trump and obviously Todd Blanche's skin. Let's play a recent clip.
I think we are facing an attack on the rule of law that is different in kind and scope to anything I've seen in my lifetime. And one of the reasons I wanted to be with you here today, in advance of the 4th of July, celebrating the birth of a country that we all love, is to celebrate the public servants who do this work, the people I spent my career working shoulder to shoulder with. I loved being a prosecutor, and part of it was I loved being around these sort of people. And it angers me to see them victimized, to see them demonized for doing their jobs. I think it's really important that we stand up for them and let them know that there are a lot of people out there who back them and who are with them. And that's not just the people who've been targeted and fired for no reason for doing their jobs. It's also the people still in the Justice Department today.
And this is the payback. This is a twofer. We call this a twofer for Jim Jordan and the MAGA Democrats, the MAGA members of the House. They're helping out Todd Blanche to try to divert attention away from the major block Blanche movement that is happening right now with a full head of steam to make sure he's not confirmed as the Attorney General. And they're trying to focus instead on all of Donald Trump's political targets. You know, I mean, one theory is that as we get closer to the midterms, you're going to start hearing about, indictments of former CIA director under Obama, John Brennan, or Barack Obama himself. And this is, again, a diversionary tactic, a smokescreen in order to help Todd Blanche and Donald Trump getting Todd Blanche, his lawyer, that plum job, plain and simple. If they decide to indict Jack Smith, they're going to have to go to a grand jury in the District of Columbia. I would hope that the lawyers at Covington will try to submit counter evidence into the grand jury room, as difficult as that sounds, get the Department of Justice to agree to let them submit something to the grand jury. And I hope that the grand jury will listen carefully to the evidence and to the law and conclude that Jack Smith could not have lied to Congress or under oath. Plain and simple. And if somehow they get indicted, because Lord knows what grand jury abuse they will conduct in order to get Jack Smith indicted, because they can't win fair and square. They've got to cheat and steal Trump and Blanche. And that indictment will be brought by Jeanine Pirro's office. We know she's a Trump enabler, bootlicker, supporter of the utmost order. And if they do get it, then I want a district court judge, federal, in D.C. to quickly dismiss that indictment. Dismiss that indictment as being on its face, invalid, and quickly relieve Jack Smith of any type of shade that's being cast on him by this committee. You notice how in the letter, they conveniently ignore that some of the presidential records that were obtained from the National Archive and text messages were about Democrats as well. I'm sorry that it was a Republican president, along with Republican members of Congress, who tried to overturn the will of the people. But that is why those are the people that are being investigated, who cooperated with Donald Trump, his team, the outsiders, the people that enabled him, the people in the war room like Steve Bannon and Mike Flynn and Rudy Giuliani. Who did they work with on the inside, if anybody, to stop the peaceful transfer and the certification of that election? Those are legitimate questions. The American people want to know if they've got traitors inside the Congress. That's the reason that the witnesses were all Republican. The people that needed to be investigated, by and large, were Republicans. It was Republicans supporting the chairman of their party, the president of the United States at the time. It's not a political witch hunt. It is now, but it wasn't then. We'll continue to follow it all right here on Legal AF. Great news, everybody. With your help, we crossed 700 million views and 1.17 million subscribers. Our goal, 2 million subscribers by November. Check now if you're subscribed. It's absolutely free to you, means the world to us. Until my next report, I'm Michael Popak. Popak here. When life changes in an instant because of an injury or the bad acts of another, you need fighters in your corner. The Popak firm is dedicated to helping the injured and their families get justice and the money they deserve. And we don't back down. Contact us today and let's start your fight for justice together.
Thank you, Senator Booker, for holding this hearing. Thank you all for testifying. And Mr. Carbone, I couldn't agree more. It's a staggering conflict of interest, self-dealing. I wrote down the 3 words that Blanche used to describe that IRS sham of a settlement. I think he said regular, typical, and I can't remember the third, but they were anything but accurate descriptions.